Welcome to the Truetone Lounge. I'm your host, Zach Childs. Today, our guest is Kirk Fletcher. Kirk Fletcher picked up the guitar around the age of 8, grew up in his dad's church, and along with playing with his brother, grew into a fantastic blues guitarist, was picked up by Kim Wilson to play in the Fabulous Thunderbirds, has had a stint with Joe Bonamassa, is one of the great modern-day blues guitarists, and we're so happy to have him on the show. His most recent album is Hold On, a great collection of tunes that you need to check out however you listen to music, and we're so proud to have you on the show.
So glad to be here, Zach. This is just one that I can check off of my list of things. I mean, I'm, just honored to be here and to be amongst some of the greatest guitar players to ever live, to ever do it. So.
Well, we're glad to have you on here. Yeah, you were talking about like the Reggie Young episode, and yes, that one's a really special one, and that one will always go down as the great one that we've done.
And you asked every question that I wanted to know about too. You spent time in every subject that I wanted to hear about.
Well, cool.
So I appreciate
it. Now you're up.
Uh-oh. So, yeah. How does that work?
So I'm curious, tell us about growing up in your dad's church. Mm-hmm. So tell us about, what kind of church it was, what kind of music you played, and what made you pick up the guitar? Yeah.
Well, I picked up the guitar because of my older brother, Walter Fletcher.
Okay.
And he was like my everything, he started me out, showed me what to look for in tone, picking, how to play more chords, even things just to think about, So everything kind of got filtered through him, my first records and everything, I go to his house and listen to, because he is quite a bit older than I was at that time.
Yeah.
So he's like he was 17 years older than me. So, you can imagine, I'm 43, so he was born in 1958. So all of that music, like Hendrix and George Benson and gospel music and all the funk music and the R&B, I was just like a little sponge. It's funny, actually, me and Eric Gales was talking about that, the same kind of thing, his older brothers. So the older brothers, I always want to give credit to my older brother, Walt, so he's the guy that got me started in my father's church.
Yeah. So what was the music like at your dad's church?
Oh, it was really, really like, it was a Pentecostal church. So, crazy holy roller type, just, speaking in tongues, jumping up and down. And, so that impact on me was great. It was sort of like a free-for-all. You could do whatever you want to do, within reason. Yeah. You could do whatever you want to do. So that's the way, I came to music, like with this whole free type. Just, the only thing you're challenged to do is just to try and make it soulful and make people feel what you're doing, from an early age, so.
So what kind of guitar playing were you doing at this point? I mean, what kind of, what were some of the songs like that you were, kind of cutting your teeth on playing in church?
Well, it's funny because, I think about it, and I thought about this a while ago. There's this song that was like called Love Lifted Me, and it's basically just blues, but it's like major instead of minor.
Yeah.
You got a thing like, you play like, instead of playing, you play, that kind of stuff. So when you hear that,
that's nice.
Yeah. Just simple stuff like that. And then, of course, at that age, it was before I really heard much quartet music. So that was just a continuation of my blues love affair. Was hearing like people like the Dixie Hummingbirds and the Soul Stirrers and, all of that kind of music. So it all kind of, I don't know why I gravitated towards that more bluesier feeling. I don't know.
So what were some early albums that really, that you wore out?
Oh, well, on the gospel thing, it was like this Mighty Clouds of Joy, it's long out of print, I believe, but it was the Mighty Clouds of Joy live in Montreux. Funny, Montreux.
Yeah.
I live in Switzerland now, actually,
yeah.
but yeah, it was live in Montreux, and they had a wonderful guitar player named Spanky Alfred, who was like basically a virtuoso guitar player playing quartet music. So you can imagine that combination of having this wonderful, guitar player and then also the bluesy quartet, kind of thing. It was just mind-blowing. So I would encourage anybody to dig for this record. And also the Best of the Dixie Hummingbirds was a really big one. Howard Carroll, guitar player with the Dixie Hummingbirds. And his style was really like, almost sort of like a big band approach, really full chords, like, I guess something like you would kind of hear in the style of like Sam Cooke live at the Copacabana or something, that real big chord kind of thing, and maybe like the low, what do you call that? Like the playing on the lower notes, just that real kind of almost Freddie Green kind of style,
Yeah.
So that was just major. And then also hearing like Jimi Hendrix, the greatest hits, smash hits, or like Crash Landing, like those weird records that you got at the flea market or whatever,
Right. Yeah, weird collections.
You have a roundabout way to get into RU Experience and all that stuff. And then also like Prince, we're talking really early Kirk stuff.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So you're playing in church. You're playing with your brother. You're learning there. How many services are you playing a week?
Oh, we're playing like probably 4 or 5 services a week.
How long is each service?
Well, we would like take for instance Sunday. Sometimes would be like Sunday school 9:30, regular service 11:30, a 3:30 service, and then sometimes night service at like 7:30 or maybe a little earlier on Sundays.
Yeah.
So it's like you're doing it for up until you're like in your 20s. I mean, that's
it's very formative.
Yeah, it really is.
And so you were getting hours
of playing in front of people.
Yeah, and that's what makes it.
I guess so. I mean, for what I like, I guess.
Yeah. Was there any type of, discouragement from your parents as far as listening to blues or anything like that? Or, because sometimes, it'll be like, you can grow up in certain Pentecostal, families where it's like, you're going to listen to gospel music and that's it, and everything else is, you need to burn it. Yeah.
Well, that's funny you brought that up because, the one thing about my family, the reason why I heard about blues and all this music is because my family's from Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, the South, the country, and so the blues, I mean, they told me they danced to like, the blues and the Grand Ole Opry and things like that. They heard that. On the radio in real time. So they would tell me about Muddy Waters and T-Bone Walker or B.B. King or all of these people. They would tell me about these names, and for some crazy reason, me being a little kid, this like just appealed to me. I knew already at that age, I was like, I have to find out who these people are. Something about that music that moves me, and it's so natural. I don't understand it. The older I get, the more I don't understand having a daughter myself, and that seeing her different age, she's 22 now, seeing her at like 13, 14, it's no way. It's like I'm trying to like think about her age now and think about me at 13, and I was like sold out for blues and quartet and gospel and funk music.
Yeah.
Strange. But I'm glad it happened that way because I've had a lot of fun listening and playing.
Well, that's great. So you didn't have any discouragement from your family about
playing gigs and playing blues and stuff. Yeah, I did have the thing. Well, you can't serve two
masters.
Yeah. And I wasn't trying to hear that. Because like the way I look at it is, it doesn't matter. I mean, what are you saying? What are you feeling when you play? It doesn't matter if it's in a club or wherever. What do you feel? Yeah. Are you happy? Are you making music? Are you making people feel good? It's the same thing as you're doing in church.
Yeah.
So I think for me, you know, it was always, I took from church more the spiritual part. You know, how can I be a good person? How can I move people with my music and leave the religion kind of, you know, that's strange sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
So that was, it was weird, but it just kind of, after a while, like after I started to get into my like late teens and things, and then my early 20s, I got a gig with Charlie Musselwhite. So it was like, they were like, okay, he's a guitar player. There's nothing gonna change that.
Yeah.
So they just accepted it, and they knew that I wasn't really, you know, doing anything other than playing music. It was cool.
Charlie Musselwhite, that's a great one.
Oh
And
man,
of course,
Charlie is
you know,
great.
You know, Robben played with him. And,
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
It was like my hero.
Yeah. So, what were the main ways that you were learning the guitar at this point? Was it mainly from listening to records? Was it from your brother? Where are you getting? Where are you picking up stuff from?
Well, I was picking up stuff from records, cassettes, CDs, my brother, MTV, church, friends, hanging out at music stores, anything. Like if it had a guitar, I was into it. It could have been anything from like C.C. DeVille with Poison to like Black Sabbath to Jimi Hendrix to like Albert Lee to everything. And that's, you know, and the older I get, the more I just go, you know what, that was right from the beginning.
Yeah.
It was cool. Either I like it or I don't care for it as much. But I will give it time to find out why I really don't like it.
Yeah. That's one of the things, when we started kind of communicating.
Oh, that was fun.
You texted me a question about a steel guitar player that played with Loretta Lynn.
Yeah.
And so one of the great things about like that conversation and watching, there's been this Ken Burns, documentary on country music and interviewing Reggie Young and all these things. It's that society has this narrative that divides music by race, and it's ugly.
Yeah.
And when you get down to it, when you hear Reggie Young, talk about chasing after B.B. King's bus in the '50s, when you hear about Stax, black Stax artists that were listening to Roy Acuff on the Grand Ole Opry, and you understand that and you watch the Ken Burns documentary and you see how many country artists were heavily influenced by black musicians. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, T-Top that taught, Hank Williams, So it's this great thing where, and it shouldn't blow me away, but still it blew me away. And I was like, I love the fact that
I knew you would find out.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah, but yes, that whole it's Merle Haggard is blues.
Oh, Merle Haggard is one of my favorite artists. Period.
Yeah.
Of just music artists. Merle Haggard is like he touches me like Bobby Bland. It's like it's like they are singing so real and so like. I mean, it doesn't get any more gangster than Merle Haggard. Come on. I mean, like, when they let me out of prison, that's like rock music.
Exactly. He really lived it. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, because my mom told me that she would listen at, like, I guess some kind of way, maybe when she would go somewhere, she would get the Grand Ole Opry. And she would, like, hear soulful country music. I mean, like soulful.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, at the end of the day, to me, that's what it's all about. How does it move you?
Yeah.
And for me, doing this record, Hold On, was one of the big things for me, was like taking the country music and knowing like, okay, they're taking this really simple subject matter, and they're expressing themselves, and it's like, they express themselves. I know exactly what Johnny Paycheck is talking about when he says, pardon me, I got somebody to kill.
Yeah.
I was like, I played that for all of my friends. They were like, whoa. I was like, hey, and this is like the blues, like, Pat Hare, with Murder My Baby. It's like the same, that's like the same thing, There's all this. Not that I want to do that.
Yeah, no, but there's just all this similarity that sometimes there's seemingly a part of society that wants to keep people separated. and
no reason for that.
And there's all this great music out there, and we should enjoy it and grow from it.
Absolutely.
So you started playing with Musselwhite, and how did that build up to getting noticed by Kim Wilson and playing with the T-Birds?
Well, I have to digress for a minute.
Sure.
Because I had this whole musical life before I started playing more blues type music. I grew up playing in like school and playing in gospel bands and playing funk music and R&B and all that, like, 3 and 4 sets a night already before I got to that point. So I had already played for 7 years of gigging.
And this is all in the Los Angeles area?
Yeah, mainly in the Los Angeles area. Yeah. Occasional trips here and there, but I was pretty young, so my parents were like, no. But then, so I had that whole like R&B kind of gospel thing going on before, and then I went and done the Charlie Musselwhite, so I was already kind of a seasoned veteran by then. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, no bad. But with the amount of time that you were spending, it all comes down to being good at anything is you can't get past the work that you have to put in, the hours that you have to put in,
right.
And you were putting in those hours, and that's what it's all about. It's all about playing with other people and playing hours every week.
Yeah.
If you're not getting that experience, you can't be good. You can't interact with the audience. You can't play well with others.
That's what I like the most, playing with, other musicians and drummers, even like drummers that had like weird time. It was like my job to try and do the best I could do to make it groove, and not just try and rely, that drummer is weird, so, that's the reason why everything sounds bad. Well, I want to do my part to make it sound good.
Right, because you could cop out and just say, well, this is going to be terrible because the drummer's no good. It's like, well, I'm going to do everything I can to make it, better, make it still have a groove to it.
We play music.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's
why we do it.
And that's the positive attitude. Yeah. So you're playing all these gigs, and you played with Musselwhite, and then keep taking us down your road.
Well, actually, I played with Kim Wilson, the blues band, first.
Okay.
And that was so much fun. Because Kim, we had this other guitar player who shortly joined, or maybe at the same time, Troy Gagne from Boston area, the kind of Boston area. And, just having this young group of guys all around the same age, I can think of a million different guys. Like, it was like I finally felt that like-minded kind of thing. Because when I was playing funk and R&B and all that, I really want to get back closer to the source. Mm-hmm. So that was amazing, just to find guys that we could all, compare notes and like talk about gear and old 50s amps and all that stuff, Mm-hmm. So yeah, Kim Wilson first and then Charlie Musselwhite. And, but I had played with guys, like Linwood Slim, Al Blake from the Hollywood Fats Band, Junior Watson, took lessons from Junior Watson and all those guys. And that was actually even after I had already met Robben Ford and was like kind of helping out with gear and being a fly on the wall to like learn about all of the, so it was like all of this stuff before.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us about taking a lesson with Junior Watson.
Oh, shit, taking a lesson from Junior Watson was like, he has this whole swing and this whole execution thing, about his playing. And the first, really, it's like you have to just do your homework because he's going to give you so much information and so many records to listen to. And that's what the lesson really was, because Junior wants to play like swing and jump and all of these obscure, beautiful like music like Bill Jennings and Tiny Grimes and all of these guys, and that's what he really loves and wants to talk about. And I was like, Junior, what about the guys that play with Little Walter and Sonny Boy and, Jimmy Rogers? And he's like, oh yeah, and he would show me that a little bit, but he would give me, just go buy this record and you'll be good, So that was the real thing for me, because I like to talk a lot, as you can probably tell, and find out about okay, so what's your view? What are you thinking about? You know, and stuff like that.
So for those that might not be aware of him, could you play a little bit of kind of a Junior Watson type guitar? Yeah.
I would love to attempt to do something. I mean, nobody's Junior Watson, but I'll try and do my best.
Yeah.
Here's the introduction to one of his songs he got from Guitar Slim called Certainly All. It's like... You know, I mean, that's sort of like his, you know.
So now he would tend to play an arch top some, or and so to kind of imitate, you know, some of his sound, you've kind of rolled off your tone control a bunch to kind of give that type of sound. What would be a good Junior Watson album to pick up if someone was like, I want to learn more about Junior Watson?
Well, I would definitely pick up, you know, his Long Overdue record. Okay. You know, that he done for the Blacktop label in probably the early 90s or somewhere like that. And it's amazing. And he's got guest artists on there like Janova Magnus and Brenda Barnes and Linwood Slim. And he's got the rhythm section of, I believe Larry the Mole Taylor and Richard Ennis are on some songs, and I think some other guys. I can't remember about that right now. Yeah. But it's really fantastic, and I mean, it's so... I mean, on some tracks, he's using like a arched out with a floating de-arming on it through like a de-arming amp. Yeah. Sounds like Willie Johnson from the whole Howlin' Wolf, Memphis kind of thing, you know? And then he's got like Stratocaster through a reverb tank kind of stuff on there, and just the list just goes on and on. And Junior was just such... all the way around, just bringing me in like family and, you know, just the whole thing. I used to like shave my head and like have the beard just out of sheer just, you know, being part of the you know, team. You know, and also Rusty Zen too is another one that played with Kim Wilson, and he was amazing. He would play like this Gibson 330 and dress super cool and have a basement in the reverb tank, so you can imagine how that sound.
Yeah. There's this whole school of players that use, you know, reverb tanks, and it's not just for the reverb. It's for, you know, the kind of buffering or boost effect that you get off that.
Whatever beautiful thing it does to the tone. I mean, in Hollywood Fats. I mean, Hollywood Fats is such a big, profound influence on me, and that was a reverb tank basement in like a 345. So you can imagine it sounded like a spaceship taking off when he played. You know, you definitely want to check out the Hollywood Fats band Rock This House with my good friend Al Blake on it. Yeah. You know, for that whole West Coast, later West Coast thing, you know. Amazing.
So, you know, keep taking us on the road to the T-Birds.
Well, I was playing with Charlie Musselwhite and having the time of my life. And, you know, I mean, ever since I was little, I wanted to be, you know, with Kim Wilson and the Fabulous Thunderbirds. I mean, along with Jimmy Vaughn, but unfortunately, that didn't happen, you know. Not that Jimmy Vaughn needs another guitar player, but, you know. So I got the call from Kim, and I had to give my notice with Charlie, which was super difficult to do because, you know, Charlie Musselwhite's a legend. He's cool. He's a lot of fun, you know, but I had to try and go with this more, because I kind of want to be in kind of a band thing, you know, and yeah, the timing was just right for me to go and do that thing finally, you know. And, you know, I'll add to that, Kid Ramos was the guitar player too in the Fabulous Thunderbirds for a while, and he was another one of my heroes. So it's, you know, just this whole thing of being young and wanting to play with your heroes. Kim Wilson is, in my opinion, one of the greatest singers ever, you know, and harmonica players. So anyway, I went from Charlie Musselwhite to join the Fabulous Thunderbirds, and it was great. And we put out a record, Painted On. It was great.
And so there you are, you know, kind of in a succession of great players that have been in that band, and, you know, of course,
Duke Robillard and Kid Bangham, and it was amazing.
Were you ever, trying to imitate what Jimmy had done, or did you kind of feel the freedom to kind of do your own thing in that band?
That's really funny you brought that up because at first, and I was also in the band with my little brother, Nick Kern, So we were in the band. I joined the band, I think, for like 4 or 5 months, and then he joined the band too. So it was a dual guitar thing. And at first I felt like I had to definitely respect the music. I mean, because that's a style and that's a thing, and they were put on the map because of a certain thing, So I did feel that. But then when Nick got in the band, he kind of covered that a little more and a little better than I did, because I was still kind of coming out of the traditional blues thing, and it was more of a strip rock and roll thing, which is amazing. So at first I did, but as time went on, I kind of changed a little bit. And then by the time I felt myself wanting to do more things outside of the band, like get feedback or, have more of the influences of my good friend Mike Landau and kind of things. I was hanging out with those guys, starting to hang out with them. So I felt maybe it's time for me to, leave the band instead of try and, get feedback and use Univibes and stuff in the Fabulous Thunderbirds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was just a natural progression.
So tell us about some of this, where you start, you had mentioned earlier that Robben Ford, you were kind of helping him carry his gear.
Oh, yeah, that was amazing. That was the best ever. He's my hero. I love that guy.
So you just kind of befriended him, and you'd show up and help him unload his car, or what? Tell us about that.
Zach, there's a story here.
Oh, well, no, don't tell us that. We hate stories.
There's a story here.
All right, is it nap time?
I know, I got to twist your arm.
Okay.
So, there's this music store called Music Works in Lawndale, California. It was in Redondo Beach or wherever. My kind of area. And Jim Foote was the guy, and he kind of brought me in. He's sort of like my second dad, So I would hang out there, after I graduated from high school in 1994. The summer of 1994, I basically lived at Music Works. Not, I didn't sleep there, but I lived there every day, 7 days a week. After church, go to Music Works and just hang out and just be a fly on the wall. People would come through. I would find out about guitars and how he was going to think about fixing a problem, like gluing a bridge on an acoustic guitar. I just loved it so much, and they would play music, and Ken Hitzman was another guy that worked there. I'm sure Glacier or wherever, here. So basically, a guy, Jeff Rivera, was teching for Robben and doing everything for Robben, doing stage manager and gear and everything, So basically, he was just one part of the Music Works family. So I was already into Robben, Stone Cold Larry, Robben, all that, So he was like, oh man, I need an extra set of hands to help me out with this gig at the Mint or somewhere in LA, back in the day. So he was like, yeah, it's Robben Ford. How did I just walk in this music store and this happened, So I'm pinching myself because this is exactly where I want to be. Yeah. Just as a person to observe, not even, oh, maybe I'll get the chance to play with Robben. No, I still don't think about that, But yeah, so that's how I met, Robben the first time. And I think he was doing a studio session for a tribute to the Beatles or something like that with the Yellow Jackets. So, I get to meet members of the Yellow Jackets and Robben Ford on one day, and I think the session was at Mad Hatter Studios. How do I remember all this? I don't know. But yeah, that's where I met the man. And it was amazing. And then over the course of the next few years, I, would go and help out when they would rehearse. So I got to see a world-class band rehearsing, recording, doing all this stuff, So that was invaluable to the direction that I want to go.
Yeah. Watching him run rehearsals.
Oh, yeah. And there was no rehearsal. I mean, he would go over songs 1 or 2 times. I mean, you got Tom Breckline and Roscoe Beck You don't need to rehearse that much. Those guys.
Heavy players. Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about Robben, Ford, and the Blue Line, too, is like, I think it was a time in all of their career where they had already played with, everybody. Robben with Miles and Joni Mitchell and Michael McDonald and Ricky Lee Jones' Pop record. Roscoe Beck, had produced records. Jennifer Warnes and Tom Reckline had played with Chick Corea and Wayne Shorter and Al Di Meola and all these people. So they were coming together after all of this to form, one of the greatest power trios of all time, in my humble opinion, So I was very fortunate to be there. And I hold it very close to my heart even to this day,
So you kind of got to know Robben, and you're watching him, you're learning from him, and then also you've had association with Mike Landau.
Mike.
Yeah.
Well, I met Mike Landau, Michael Landau. I met him during the time of the T-Birds, midway through when I was playing with the T-Birds. And I know I've said this before, and I know it sounds really crazy. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys it sounds crazy. But actually, Alexander Dumble brought Michael Landau and Sonny Landreth to one of my shows when I was just starting out at this club in LA. So, I'm playing on the Tuesday night with some band, and it's like, I'm up there playing like, I don't know, whatever,
Yeah.
And then in walks the, two of the greatest guitar players to ever do. Alexander Dumble, too.
Yeah.
Who, became a friend, So I was just in heaven, and immediately, me and Mike hit it off. And I mean, we were just two peas in the pod. We are two peas in the pod. And, and I knew about all of this stuff because I'm an LA guy, and I knew about Burning Water, Raging Honkies, and all the sessions, and I was an Uber fan. So that makes it even more special, kind of,
Yeah.
And Sonny Landreth, I mean, what can you say? I mean, like, Outward Bound is one of my favorite records of all time.
Yeah.
So I was, as you can imagine, in heaven. And I was nervous, and I couldn't even play the guitar anymore at all. I was like,
With Dumble, was he working on your amps or anything like that, or had you just befriended him?
We were just friends. I mean, everybody asked me that question, so you didn't get an overdrive special? No. And you know what? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because I have a Fender Super Reverb that I love dearly, and he even said at my gig, he was like, Kirk, wait, this is it, kind of. You're a Super Reverb guy. And I think even if I played an overdrive special, it wouldn't be me. What do I need an overdrive special for when I got my sound right here? And it's fun, and you can make it do whatever you want with your hands and the way you approach it, I feel.
Yeah. That's an important point. Yeah.
I guess so.
So you're at the end of the T-Birds, and you decide, you kind of make the difficult decision to
real difficult.
Yeah, to leave that band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should still be in the T-Birds now, along with my good buddy Johnny Moeller. No. Yeah, because it was just time, I wanted to kind of do my own band and kind of just have fun and just play. I want to, be more in charge of my own destiny. Yeah. I want to try and figure out how to sing, how to write songs, and drink too much probably, and all of those things that go along with it. And it was just fun, kind of hanging out with Mike and Travis Carlton at that time. Still, and just being part of this other scene of younger musicians that are just into music and better than I am. So it was kind of just taking the musicianship on a different level. I won't say a better level, but a different level. Yeah. Just different things.
So how are you learning about singing and songwriting and all those things?
By listening to Bobby Bland records, Dreamer, and Bobby Womack and all that stuff, and just listening to it just trying to take it in and trying to figure something out, as well as listening to gospel music and stuff. And, you know, it kind of took a while because I was like out of the T-Birds for probably 2 or 3 years before I even started to sing, you know. And that's still an ongoing thing. But, you know, as you do it more, you start to get more and more comfortable.
Right.
You know, and it's just, now it's at the point where it would be weird for me to just not sing something or just express myself in some kind of way singing, even though I might not be that good. It's like, there are a lot of people that aren't that good. There's no reason not to do it.
Well, it's your way of communicating.
Yeah, it's like words are kind of like really cool, and all I've ever tried to do was be lyrical on the guitar. So it's just kind of like...
Now you can do both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you also kind of been associated with Joe Bonamassa at times. So
My buddy.
you've done some tours with him. Tell us about your Joe Bonamassa connection.
Oh, Joe Bonamassa is another really magical night at Harvell's in Santa Monica, California. We have this mutual friend, Matt Kohler, who works for Gibson now, actually. You know, we were two peas in the pod and like playing guitar, and he was, you know, dealing vintage guitars and stuff, so I'd always hang out with him and go eat at Cha Cha Chicken. So he goes, you know, I think Bonamassa's gonna come down to your gig tonight. So I'm like, that would be ruling, you know, because I had met him briefly at the Pier Fest or something in Europe, and I just walked over to him, and I was like, hey, what's happening, man? How you doing? Because, you know, we're around the same age. I'm like, I'm gonna go meet this guy. Super cool. Joe was like super cool. So then he came to my gig, I was playing, I had one guitar like I always do and one amp, you know. Sounded good too. Tone was happening, you know. So
is that your super reverb?
Super reverb, and like I think I had like this Memory Man.
Yeah.
You know, just like, you know, real loud, you know. So I said, I didn't even ask him. I said, okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna get Joe Bonamassa on stage, you know. And he was like, okay, here we go. So he gets my guitar, goes on stage and plays and burns the house down. I was like, yes, this is amazing, and it was magical. So then he gives me my guitar back.
Yeah.
And I play something, I give it back to him. And he plays, so we go back and forth on the same guitar. Now that's magical. That's amazing. I mean, here I am trading my guitar back and forth with Joe Bonamassa.
Yeah.
And I think he had so much fun, and I know I had so much fun that we've been good friends ever since then, you know. So I think that musical connection was the thing that made him really comfortable to say, hey, Kirk, can you help me out on this, you know, these couple projects to play rhythm guitar? Because he knows I love rhythm guitar, and it's, you know, my buddy, so it's just this thing where he could kind of take me out. I could get out of the van and on a bus for a little while and have catering. So, and go to vintage guitar stores, you know. Yeah. So it was just like going on vacation.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's nice to go on vacation and you know.
Play some blues.
And there's a road manager making all the decisions. All you have to do is, you know, show up at the right time.
Yeah.
No decisions to make.
It was amazing.
Yeah. So, and then you've continued, you know, your solo career, and you mentioned that you had that you had moved to Switzerland.
Yes, actually, I moved to Switzerland almost 3 years ago. I fell in love with this young lady who just swept me off my feet years ago, and then we lost contact for 7-8 years, and then we reconnected, and it was just no stopping us after that. Yeah. You know, and my daughter was going to college at that time, you know, so I was like, oh, okay, so if she's going to college somewhere closer to around here, Europe, I mean, it's a little bit closer, and I can be with the woman I love and, you know, come visit my daughter. Well, you know, my daughter decided to go back to LA, so I'm stuck every 3 or 4 months coming back to LA from Switzerland. But you know what? That's a small price to pay. Yeah. You know,
and it's good to reconnect with
where you're from, and see all my friends. I still want to see my friends, but Switzerland is great. They're both great. Everywhere is great.
Yeah.
Kind of.
So compare the, because there's a very different attitude, in Europe toward music and musicians, compared to clubs and listeners in the U.S. And not to be derogatory, but tell us a little bit about the difference between European clubs and listeners. And
well, I think there's an exception, and I think that is London, the UK, because that's where the musicians are from. Bristol are from that played on my record, and I really feel that difference smaller and smaller there when I go to the UK, because I mean most of rock music was English people. I mean, when you think about the guy that put it down, like Eric Clapton, I think he's one of the cats that laid the groundwork for, I mean, who was the first person Jimi Hendrix wanted to see when he went over? I mean, Clapton,
Yeah, and his career got launched not in the U.S., but by going to
in the UK. So, me being a traditional guy, I'm not saying like they were the, that was the beginning. I'm just saying that, I mean, like you got bands like Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, all of those different bands. So, they've definitely contributed a lot to the music.
Yeah.
So, I do see it there. And there are some other musicians in Europe, But for me, I really like playing in Europe, but I also love playing in the States too, because it's this connection of people really getting on a cultural level what you're putting down, what you're doing,
Yeah.
So I need kind of both. I need all of it, really.
Yeah.
You need that culture, and you need to play, like, say I'm playing King Biscuit in a few days, in Arkansas.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't wait to play for people
Helena, Arkansas.
Yeah.
King Biscuit.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
So, I think it's all good, and it's how you, view it. But, a lot of people I know say, oh, you're more respected in Europe and everything. But, I feel that I've been fortunate, and I love my American audience, too, because they have some fanatical music fans in America, too, such as yourself.
Yeah.
So I really need that, too.
Yeah.
I couldn't only play in Europe. I need to come occasionally play in the States because it's fun.
Yeah, and that wasn't to be derogatory toward American listeners, but I just noticed, in the time that I lived in Europe, that it seemed like because music was more expensive and such, especially when you were still buying physical records, it seemed like the average European listener was more likely to also have read like all the liner notes.
Yes, and now that part of it is true.
Yeah.
Like when you go to a club in Europe, it's an event.
Yeah.
Most places, it's not a sports bar. You're not going to have 37 TVs with the basketball game when you're trying to play a shuffle.
Yeah.
They're there, they paid their money and they want to see a show. And they're excited about it. And that part of it, yes, is like way better.
Yeah.
I mean, but you get that drunk guy with that beer in America, though, that's into it, and that's amazing, too.
Yeah.
So, pros and cons.
So the latest album that you cut this in England.
Yeah, in Bristol, yeah.
And, of course, I love that you did, something as a tribute to Cornell Dupree.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about your love of Cornell Dupree.
It would be hard to say when that started because he's sort of like a part of my DNA, kind of, just from just the radio and just records from family members. And, I mean, like you think of Aretha Franklin and Donny Hathaway. And, I mean, he played on probably, 2 or 3 of my top 10 records of all time. One guy.
Yeah.
I mean, like when you think of, now I'm going to draw a blank because the lights are on in the cameras. Yeah. But Donny Hathaway live.
Yeah.
King Curtis live.
Yes.
I mean, Memphis Soul Stew is like amazing. Aretha, I can't even say which Aretha because it was different guitar players, but.
Yeah, but the live at the Fillmore.
Yeah, live at the Fillmore is like,
Yeah, and then you get to some like her doing Bobby
Lady Soul.
Womack's.
Oh yeah,
I'm in love.
I'm in love. One of my
is
favorites.
him playing it. Yeah. So those are.
So there you go with like 3 or 4 right there, and I'm leaving out so many. Like Rainy Night in Georgia is, one of the. And Esther Phillips.
Yeah.
Esther Phillips from A Whisper to a Scream, I think it's called, is like classic, Cornell Dupree, but just that really warm, like, neck pickup sound. And, it's crazy because I start to see a connection between, like, different guys, like, even, like, say, for instance, like Jesse Ed Davis.
Yeah.
You start to kind of hear, like, him playing on, like, Checking on My Baby or something like that off the first Taj Mahal record.
Mm-hmm.
You start to hear this neck pickup, kind of real milky kind of thing. And I started to kind of search out all the Telly guys that had that milky thing. I mean, even like Steve Cropper on like Soothe Me or whatever. Who knows if it was on the neck, but it just kind of has that real kind of pretty R&B sound. And of course, Bobby Womack.
He used the neck quite a bit, Cropper did, and you're absolutely right. Jesse Ed Davis, like,
oh man,
those are, and a lot of it's the neck pickup.
Yeah, it's just, I think from what I, thought about or whatever, it's like in those days, maybe they didn't have like early 50s tellies, they had like maybe early 60s tellies. So I think that they would kind of maybe set their amps to play more for the neck because that was the warmer sound. Because the bridge pickups were probably like ear splitting, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Some of them were, absolutely.
Yeah, so maybe they just set it up to get this really sweet sound on the neck pickup. I don't know.
Yeah. Talking about gear, tell us about this Telecaster that you have here.
Well, this Telecaster is a new acquisition that I recently got from Norm Harris. I had to beg, borrow, and steal to get it, but it's a Refin 1956 neck, so it has like kind of a V to it, you know?
Yeah, it has a nice V to it.
Yeah. And then it's a 52 body with old pickups rewound by Ron Ellis.
Yeah.
Ron Ellis, I mean, he's always, like, the circles always comes back to, like, Ron Ellis,
Yeah, and I'll just give props to Ron. Ron is the reason that, Kirk's on the show today. It's from Ron. And Ron's a great guy and a fantastic, pickup maker.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I also have another telly, a white telly, and I call that Sophia from the Golden Girls, the mom on the Golden Girls, because me and my girlfriend would always look at the Golden Girl reruns while I play this white telly. And that guitar is, like, amazing. And then I have a Rudders telly that I played on the record on Hold On and Mulan telly.
Yeah.
So I've been playing a lot of tellies.
And the Mulan has humbuckers on it.
Yeah, thin line, 2 humbuckers in it. And it's crazy for me, like, recording. I'm really kind of a Strat guy, but recording that Telecaster is just so present.
Yeah.
Works so good.
Well, show us some of the sounds of this guitar. Let us hear the neck pickup and the both in the bridge and stuff, so we can just hear all the sounds that it has just on its own.
Sure.
Nice. And so this is the only guitar you have with you right now because you're flying around the States and and so then we provided the amp. This is an old Deluxe Reverb that has a vintage 30 in it. Yeah. So we're glad that we had something to kind of fit the bill. And then down underfoot, we just have a couple of these are a couple boxes that you just keep in a bag and you throw on the floor.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's crazy because I just had a pedal board built by LA Sound Design. Mm-hmm. Those guys, I love those guys. And it has some really cool things on it, like the Shinny Univibe and a Jan Ray, and it has the Jesse Davy silicone fuzz on there, and
a whole shooting match of stuff.
A whole thing. Yeah. It's amazing, right? Yeah. But I had to fit a lot of merch in my Pelican case, and the way we have to fly and everything.
Yeah.
I brought some of my favorite few of my favorite little devices.
Tell us about this unmarked box on the end.
The unmarked box is basically a collaboration between Ibanez and Vimuram.
Okay.
And it's basically Vimuram's version of a tube screamer.
Okay.
But it's got the beautiful, workings that they do. They're amazing. One of my favorite.
So has that been on the whole time that you've been playing?
Yep.
Okay, so you've never turned that off. Okay.
And that's usually what I do. I usually get everything, I'll get kind of a hot thing, gonna get the amp turned up and get this. And I would really like to say, okay, everybody always asked about overdrives and what overdrive do you use and what. I think there's more so than changing overdrive, something that works really well for me is usually I turn the level up pretty hot, and I'll turn the drive a little back and just get the overall pedal volume up loud and get the amp up loud and then pick softer. So that's sort of like a bigger note bloom kind of than getting your pedal to be more gainy, and trying to get the sustain and everything that way by picking harder or whatever. So when you do that, it seems like it doesn't matter as much. In a way, you just have to find a pedal that works for you. But that's been, my thing, and I get asked that question a lot about the overdrive.
Yeah, and then what gauge strings do you use?
Tens.
And what kind of pick?
I use a Fender Heavy or,
And do you use the point or the rounded end or what?
I use the rounded edge of it, of the pick, but also the pointy end too sometimes. Like if I want to lay down something a little more funky or I'm only playing rhythm, sometimes I'll use the pointed edge too. And this has only been the last couple years.
Yeah.
Because, I learned from Robben way back when, to use the rounded edge, it gets a kind of a fatter tone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got a tuner and you've got a Boss reverb pedal.
Yeah. And the reverb pedal, I use a million different reverb pedals. Sometimes I'll use the Topanga. Sometimes I'll use whatever. You might tell me about a new one that I should check out, but this one just seems to work. And with Boss pedals, they just seem to turn on and work, And then I'll have this smaller travel pedal board with the one spot, wrapped around it so I can just go on stage, unwrap it, plug it into wherever I am all around the world, and it works.
Thank you.
I'm like a, Cadillac here, Rolls Royce here now with this thing plugged in. I almost don't know what to do.
So, so this is kind of how you, so normally you would, as you're touring in the States, you're just getting backline.
Europe or the States, I usually get a Fender Hot Rod DeVille. And I'll use this because it seems like the more stuff that you add sometimes when you're playing backline, if the amp's tired or whatever like that, I'll just make it happen with this. But now I'm going to use the pedal board when I go out on tours next year and stuff like that. You know, but for just making bacon, flying in, you know, just getting the job done, I just use some sort of overdrive pedal, and it changes every once in a while, or some sort of guitar. You know, I change a lot. Strat, Les Paul, 335, or Tele. Any one of those four. Yeah. You know, because I don't know. I think I got that. That's another thing I got from Robben. Robben would play one or two guitars and make all the music in the world with those, you know, one or two guitars. And that's kind of how I grew up looking at it too, you know. Yeah. So if you want to rock out on the Tele, you just bring a Tele and play that all night. That's if you want a Strat, just play a Strat all night.
Because the more stuff, you know, you pull out, you know, then you need a guitar tech. And
right? You know, and I'm just trying to get in tune, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, so, yeah. Hey, this is Kirk Fletcher, and this is my new CD, Kirk Fletcher, Hold On. Well, actually, it's a year old, but you still should go out and buy it. I made this record with a lot of love, and it's my first record where I sang all of the songs except for one. I wrote all the songs with the help from some close friends, and I recorded it in Bristol. And it's just love. Everything about this record is love and good times. And I hope to do more of this really soon. So check it out if you haven't bought it already. Or stream it, I don't care.
So you have some upcoming dates. You're playing, of course, the King Biscuit thing
in Helena,
Arkansas. Then you've got some dates in England. You've got dates down in Australia. Yeah. I mean, it's awesome. I'm so glad that you could be on the show. So glad you know your deep love of music and the guitar and your kindness is very apparent, and I really appreciate you coming down here. And it was just a thrill.
So thank you so much, Zach. Yeah. I appreciate it.
All right.
It's great.